And we are live. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel, Watch Your Mouth Reviews. My name is James. I am here to give my honest review while trying to watch my mouth. And it's not going to happen in this video. Joining me, as always, my special guest, Mrs. Best, aka my girl Amina. Y'all
Hello.
show her some love and subscribe to both of our channels. We are doing this from building this all the way up from the ground up, and we are, getting through and getting live. So, how you doing today, Amina?
I'm all right. For now. I'm all right for
Wow.
now.
Y'all, it's been one of them days for shit. I but we are so in sync, but hey, we're gonna get through it with the best of them. So, if you saw in the header, our show is a brand new show. This is the first time that I've ever had a show that just started and I'm reviewing on my channel. It is Love and Marriage Detroit, season 1, episode 1 review. I'm not a fan of doing the Love and Marriage series at all because Huntsville has way too much toxicity for me, and DC was way too boring for me. So, Love and Marriage Detroit season 1, episode 1 was actually okay. I not gonna lie, y'all, it was a pretty good series. How did you feel about the show's premiere episode, Mina?
I thought it was interesting. More interesting than previous Love and Marriage premiere episodes. So I
Hmm.
was impressed. I was impressed.
So, the show opens up with Carlos Keen actually giving a dialogue of this being his city and what Detroit, and I actually appreciated this because we do have the wrong perception about Detroit when it was the foundation of a lot of errors that we use today. Music, vehicles, it was probably one of the fastest growing cities as far as business wise that we have in the world today. And the fact that it has such a negative connotation because people forget that Detroit is home to some of the biggest musicians in the world. And then people forget that both GM and Ford started out in Detroit in the US when they were factored here. So, yes, it is a lot that people have forgotten about, and they're trying to revitalize Detroit. So, how
Mhm.
did you feel hearing Carlos Keen's, kind of perception of his city?
Um, what he said was good. I didn't. I even wrote that in a note. The sound of that man's voice irks my soul. Um, and we don't care that he's from there. I think in general, Detroit is a city that I am seeing shows like we did Grown in Gospel trying to give more love to Detroit, especially with the BMF being so popular. That show and all of that started and was based there. So it seems like people are starting to acknowledge that there's still some good left in Detroit. So I appreciated Carlos for saying that. I was just annoyed and felt like he made it about him, which he seems to do with everything. Um, I don't know. Carlos King, the sound of his voice just irked me. And that couldn't be just his voice. Whoever mixed the sound for that, it was loud. I turned the TV down to 8, and here's Carlos loud ass, and in my city. And I'm just like, all right, thanks for the introduction. But I do appreciate that he's trying to make this more like showing that there's stuff going on in Detroit, showing there's people who are successful there and that you can have wealth there.
Hmm.
I definitely appreciate seeing that part. But
I did too. And one of the things I will say about um, watching this series is that it did definitely remind me of, kind of like what I wish someone would do with Oakland.
mhm.
Which is because for the longest time, Oakland was on the map, and Oakland was probably one of the most desirable cities, for influence that the world has had. So that's kind of what I really would have appreciated if, someone would do this with Oakland. But, I don't think that that's ever going to happen, unfortunately. So I don't know. We'll see how that works. But let's dive into these couples. I wish I had a graphic available because a lot of people have not tuned into the show, so they don't know what they're looking at.
I
So
find it
let's see.
odd that they premiered a new show on a Saturday. I think OWN is weird for that.
I
Just a
think
little
so
weird.
too, just
People
because
are outside. Saturday nights, running around, or tired from the day if they're older. So,
Yeah.
you
Can you
know,
see my
there you
screen?
go. I can.
Okay. So y'all, we have three couples on this show who the show is circled around for this time. I feel like they needed one more couple. I really did because these three gave me a damn headache. So I'm gonna start with the Harrises on the left here. So the Harrises are Russell and Kobe. So Russell is, I think he said he runs a nonprofit organization. I forgot what the name of the company was called because it
Mhm.
wasn't really all that. They didn't show much of it. He's a fitness guru, and Kobe is a social media influencer. She That's all they really showed of her. I guess we'll dive in more into, you know, the show goes on. In the middle, we have the Smiths. We have Brandon and Christina. Brandon is a music producer, a becoming entrepreneur. He does a lot of
Artist development.
artist development, yeah. And Christina is like Colby, is a social media influencer. She does more of like the image consulting and fashion. So hers was a little bit more in depth than what Colby described hers to be. And then the last couple, we have the Thompsons, which is Anthony and Dr. Latoya Thompson. Anthony is, I think, also on that venture of artist development as well. And he also does network development. I think that's what he was doing in Atlanta. And Dr. Latoya, I believe, runs like a physical therapy or sports therapy kind of practice. And she also has a wine venture that is also coming as well. So, hmm, interesting couples, all of them. So, since they didn't really dive into much on these couples other than their personalities, I want to ask you which couple got on your nerves the most?
The hold on, let me look at the notes because y'all know this is new. I don't know these people. Brandon and Christina, are they the Smiths? Is it Smith?
Yeah, Brandon and Christina, they are the Smiths. Yeah.
They got on my nerves the whole episode. From
Okay.
meeting them to they got on my nerves.
So let's start with it. So we're gonna just do storyline by storyline. I'm not gonna dive into the whole episode because it just wasn't a lot, and the episode was focused majority on them. So basically, in a nutshell, Brandon has this new artist that he is, developing and in the studio with. And Christina gives him a phone call to studio because she is unaware that he has contractually signed a new artist. And I said contractually signed, not just, passing through. This is someone that he has had a lot of encounters with if you're running a contract with them. So she calls him. He mentions nothing of this new artist. He just says he's in the studio. When you saw this phone conversation and how irritated he got with her, what was your first impression?
um, so first I think their background's important before I comment on it. They've been
I was gonna
together.
mention that at the end. I was gonna
Yeah,
mention that at the end
they
because the
it's
problem
it's
is I want.
important though, because I think that how they got together, the timeline that they got married, and
Oh,
then
you're talking about the 4 month thing.
they got married after 6 months. They said they somehow have lasted 11 years. But my thing with the phone conversation is it confirmed that something has happened in this relationship prior to the TV, because in my head, I'm like, it is hard to have a spouse that either works in the music industry. Honestly, it's hard to have a spouse that works in the entertainment industry to any capacity. But I think with music, it gets a little more shifty.
Mhm.
When people get married so fast, I know people are like, I believe in love at first sight and this and that. But I'm the type of chick that even if you do have love at first sight, like wait a little bit. Like I got married young, but I at least waited 3 years. Like don't I just don't understand any of it. She called the phone questioning him before she made it known that she just wanted to say what's up to her husband. And then he is just so agitated and behaving like someone who is up to something, because why did you need to excuse that artist from the booth if you know you're in a session, if you know the session is harmless, if the artist knows you're married, like professionally, the correct thing to do. Hold on 1 second. My wife calling. What's up, babe? I'm in a session. Is it important? No. I just wanted to know when you're going to be home. Oh, I can't give a definitive time, but it should be within this amount of hours or something. That's all that had to happen. And the way that conversation went, I was like scratching my braids when I'm supposed to pat. The stress that I felt for them was a little like, but then she was so calm. So I'm like, oh, this is a regular thing. Because if I call my husband in the studio and he's like, okay, you just want to say hi, like, what's up? I'm pulling up. But
you said it, because I was like, girl, but I tell you, mama, come watch these kids real quick. I got to do something right now.
Okay.
And I'm pulling up with gestures, like I'm throwing doors, I'm knocking shit off the desk. Why the fuck are you?
We could agree on that, because I didn't know how to say that politely. I was trying to find an ethical way.
Said it the way I would have done it. Mm-hmm.
My dude does music. He sometimes goes off to studios and stuff. Like, I pretty much leave him alone for a certain amount of hours, because you have an idea when they're in the studio. Like, anyone in the studio is going to be there, in my opinion, for a minimum of 4 hours. And the more you call, the longer it takes, because they need silence to record and to create. But after that 4 hours, the kids is in bed. She's sitting at home with her braces and her little side ponytail and full makeup. When you coming home? And he acted like that.
Baby better than me, because when I tell you the next scene would have been me pulling up, I promise you, Carlos would have got a show out of me. Because that was, absolutely. You would have got exactly what you wanted, because I would have gave it to you, because I don't know who the fuck he thought this was, and I don't know who the fuck he thought I am for you to even talk to me like that. And then she was just like, okay.
What's wrong?
What's wrong? Okay, you in the zone. Well, had I known you was in the zone, it's like, no, fuck all that. What the fuck is the problem?
I hate when people who are creative, and this is what he gives me, her husband. Let me see. Brandon. He gives me the type of nigga who do music or is in the industry, who uses that as his excuse to not be a present spouse, like as a whole. That's what I get from her, because there's people in the industry like Ice Cube. You know what I'm saying? He's been married for over 20 years. Like, there's people in the industry who have been married, who have made it work, who do that. But if you look at them versus the ones who are always in trouble, divorced, things like that, who do music, the difference is their wives are present. Even if they're not in our face, they make sure that people know that they are, locked down. So it can be done. But to have your artist out of the studio before you answer the phone, and that ponytail he's got on the top of his head, he's got that man bun. You don't trust people with man buns.
Girl, I'm not doing this with you today.
I haven't met a mature male who has a man bun. And I live in California, so I've met a lot of man bun men of all diversities, races, shapes, sizes. None of them ain't shit. Whether they straight, whether they not, whether they are transitioning, whether they are just your normal fuckboy from the hood. Man bun equals trouble. That's my opinion.
I couldn't agree more. So let's move on. I feel like I want to talk about the Harrises just a little bit, because the couple that annoyed me the most was these two motherfuckers. But I feel like I'm going to talk about the Harrises. Yeah, that's Russell and Colby. So Russell and Colby. What can I say about them?
I just want to say I knew who annoyed you the most would. But I was watching it at like midnight, and you're across the country, so I'm like, I can't text them, but I'm like,
right.
James is not going to watch his mouth when it comes to a movement.
Right. Girl, I was watching that shit. I was like, wait a minute. And I'm like, Carlos, You always seem to find some old chauvinistic, misogynist ass, pencil head, dick ass dude.
Pencil head.
I'm telling you, every single time, it never fails with Carlos. Like, I'm starting to wonder about you, Carlos. I wasn't gonna say nothing. Martell
He can
aside.
cast. He can cast a show. I will give him that. He'll find the shittiest of people and they won't quit. I'll be like,
Yeah, it's like, damn. I'm scared to with this season with messing with that dude. But let's talk about the Harrises, Russell and Colby. They seem out of the three to be the most normal couple.
I was gonna say that.
So, you know, they didn't really show them in the show dynamic wise of what they deal with. Unfortunately, we didn't get to see much of them. We do know that their communication is somewhat skewed. I picked up on that. Um, and another thing is I didn't catch the age difference between the two. And the reason why I pointed that out was because a lot of the times when you look at age dynamics between people, he gives me the type that he feels like because he's older, he knows more than she does. He gives me that impression. And I don't know what that is, and I don't know what that's about, but I was nervous for them. I'm like, okay, I don't see this lasting. And I hate I have to say that.
Colby and what is his name?
Colby and who?
What's her husband's Russell.
Yeah.
Those two. So she's a preacher's kid, her and Christina, which I found to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, maybe Colby is okay with his little I know everything. To me, it gave me not I know everything, but like I'm a man, and like he's very set on like roles in the relationship. But I didn't get enough from them
to really assess them.
Yeah,
I don't think I did either. I kind of felt like the one thing I respect about Colby is she with the shits. I'm gonna give it to her. She is with the shits. I think I'm gonna like her because I know I'm not gonna like Christina, and I know I'm not gonna like Dr. Latoya. So I think I might like Colby out of them. But that's all, I want to see if you were gonna have three couples, Carlos, we needed to see them all dynamic wise. We only saw them intermingle with each other, and I felt like that wasn't enough to really assess in the first episode, selling us on these people because we don't even have them to talk about with them too. So I don't know. I'm just kind of one of them situations where I'm just like, okay, but yeah, he gives me like the same thing Brandon gives me, where I'm not going to tell you shit that you need to know, but I feel like you don't need to know. That's what he gives me. And that's a problem. Because when you married, I got to know every fucking thing. So yeah.
I agree.
So I can't with but I'm gonna like Colby. I don't know about Russell yet. The verdict is still out. I know I'm not gonna like Brandon, and I know I'm not gonna like Christina. So I am going to waste time. Do we have anything else on there before we move on to the other couple?
Russell and Colby, nothing happened enough with them yet. And then what did happen was toward the end, not enough to this. Yeah.
We'll get to that because that's why I waited to do that couple last, because we're gonna intermingle that last scene. Because I don't care about that first scene too much, because that was some bullshit anyway. But I'm gonna talk about it a little bit. So I want y'all to get a good look. Hold on, let me do this again. I want y'all to get a good look at these two motherfuckers here.
I'm just proud of him for knowing how to do the screen share. Look at God.
I want y'all, and I'm gonna keep this on these two for a minute because I don't know who did it. I don't know who caused it. All I know is that when a man tells in front of a whole bunch of other couples that I'm this whole, men need to be men, we need to take care of each other, and it was just what Christina said. That's a male chauvinist. That is what male chauvinistics are, is this man right here. And the fact that that lady just sat there at that picnic table and didn't say a fucking thing irritated me so bad, because you need to tell me. And when we got more further in the episode, it was like, yeah, she shuts her mouth. And I'm looking at her like, you need to be speaking up. Because there's no way you gonna tell me you going out of town and feel like you don't need my permission or you don't need to consult with me first
Here's
about
the
where you're going
thing.
and what you're doing.
I did like they had an interesting situation, Anthony and Dr. Latoya, but like from the jump before we even got into all of the BS that he believes in, I was like the body language between all three of these couples off. Like you can tell when a couple is like in sync in a good space. If you look at their confessionals, the body language, like especially Anthony and Dr. Latoya, not only are they stiff, but they sit in the way I would sit if I got sat at school in an assembly next to somebody I didn't like or who was musty. And I'm like, how are you sitting next to your spouse? Like you people are husband and wife. You've chosen to pay the fee for the license, likely the wedding, changing of last names, except for Christina, I peep she hyphenated. And I'm looking like Anthony and Dr. Latoya had the worst body language, the worst, the worst. She seems, I don't understand if like maybe she feels guilty or something because she's a doctor, he is not. So obviously she had to be in school for longer. Maybe that's something that was an issue. But you left not just your wife. I think that's what most people get caught up in because it's like, what the fuck? You're married and you just took, first of all, you took a job without talking to your spouse. That's
Right.
weird.
That's weird.
I mean, hell, when I worked in retail, I talked to Josiah to figure out if I wanted to go to Target or Petco. So if I could talk to him about minimum wage paying jobs, married, I just don't see many couples, like married or not, like accepting jobs without talking to their spouse about it.
And it's not just accepting a job, it's a job clear across the country to Atlanta.
So that
y'all have kids. Y'all have 3 kids.
That's what I was getting to.
Tell me
you didn't just leave your wife. You up and left your kids.
Yeah.
And to me, that's worse than the wife because, you know, what he did is wrong. Obviously, in a relationship, you should talk about that. But my nigga, you left your kids. There's not an opportunity in the world that would make it okay for you to go across the country or go away from your kids without discussing it with them. That, like your kids. It's not just your wife.
Yeah, I think what made me mad at her is the fact that she was just so passive with it. It was like, yeah, but that's not okay. Yeah, but it's not okay. Like, no, you need to go past that. No, and I was looking at her like
things down. I'm just like, she is a doctor of sports medicine, not love. So maybe she doesn't understand. I'm telling you, just the smartest people.
Well, she must have had a 4.0 GPA because for me, I was looking at her like, no, man, this is where you need to set your roots and be like, that can't happen no more. Mm-hmm. You can't just take no job and just not think you can't tell me about it. Because how you know I didn't want to go to Atlanta? Like, how you know I didn't want to take it?
The worst part for me that I just read my notes, he did it during COVID.
Right. And she was working at the hospital.
So irresponsible to be hopping your black ass on a plane halfway across the country in the middle of a global pandemic. And this was during the time, and they specified when ground zero, the world shut the hell down. Like it was bad. So they're trying to fight for toilet paper and he's trying to find a flight. And he's like, I came home, but I came home. And I get the feeling he did not come home as often as he says he did. And I also get the feeling that when he came home, Dr. Latoya was not relieved in any way from having to do the kids and the doctor and the wine. Anthony,
I feel like if he, like a lot of people say, well, because I read online, he came home every 7 days. That's not the fucking point. I don't believe he came home every 7 days. I believe he came home at the end of that shit.
When you have small children that are boys, and you're a man, you probably should be coming home more than once every 7 days. I don't like that. And then you say you have to take the job for this opportunity and stuff, but not once does it seem, at least we don't know, but based on what we saw in this first episode, it doesn't seem like he was even willing to compromise in any way. Like Oh, the boys can be with me during this time if it's not school time, or like
Even
they
if it
just
was school time, they were doing school virtually. So yeah, he could have taken the
ah,
kids
so it didn't
with
matter.
him if
You're
it
right.
was really that. If it was like
Not
in
you catching the excuses. He said,
no,
nah,
no,
nah.
no, 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 because she said virtual school, and also she was at the hospital
Hmm.
where COVID was literally living. So you mean to tell me that it was safer for your children? Because I imagine he wasn't going to a physical studio during COVID, but just had to be in Atlanta. I imagine that you really could have did this opportunity from home. Because
I
what were you
call
doing?
I call bullshit. During
What were
COVID,
yeah,
during COVID, they're letting people stay home in jobs that really they didn't need to stay home in.
hmm
And it took a while for them to do that. Like part of the reason most of the movies we got during COVID, when we couldn't go to the theater and stuff, when they're putting it on the apps and stuff, most of those were already filmed prior. Like there was not anyone who watches reality TV during COVID knows shows just stopped in the middle of seasons because they had to shut down filming. In Atlanta specifically, I remember loving Hip Hop Atlanta shut down after like 4 episodes
right.
because of COVID. So, and that's Atlanta. Same thing with Black Ink Crew, Atlanta. All these different places had shut down at one point. So you actually caught some shite because he definitely was not in Atlanta for that. And I feel like Dr. Latoya knows that, but is choosing to accept it because she just gives me the type that doesn't want to let go of the idea of
Yeah,
marriage and
exactly.
career and children. But
hmm She
that,
has it all and is building more. And it looks better when you're a married woman having all that than for you to be single. It's a shame in society that we
mhm.
still have these attachments to us in order for us to be at the top of our game. That is ridiculous to me. I hate whoever wrote that shit up. I hate y'all because let me explain something to you. That woman is probably better off without that man.
And then it seems like he's using this man's movement as
Right. And what the fuck
a
is that?
as a screen to like make him
Yeah.
look better for essentially abandoning his family.
Yeah, because what does it say about you, this men's empowerment movement that we gonna call it? Although I liked Christina's response better, the He Man Woman Haters Club. Um, what does that say about you that in the most trying times that society has had in years, you jump your ass on a plane to Atlanta, leaving your sons?
Mhm.
What does that say about you exactly?
And you come
For-
home every week putting their health at risk. If you are going
Right.
to just stay the fuck gone and FaceTime instead of risking your children catching COVID, which I'm sure your medical doctor of a spouse had warned you about.
Right, exactly. Because my thing is this, if the opportunity was going to be here, it was going to be there as well. Like what I mean by that, if it was going to be present, it's going to be in the future too, once we got out of this shit.
If you're as
So,
successful as you claim to be and
mhm,
have enough success to find your way onto my TV screen, then you absolutely could have found another way, an alternative to going to Atlanta. To me, it sounds like allegedly, because I can't say for sure for certain and what's going on, but my little women's intuition says that you probably had a friend or somebody you was talking to who you had to get to before they exposed themselves to your spouse, because the way that they describe it, he just suddenly left. So it,
without even talking, she said, you didn't even talk
yeah,
to me about this.
yeah, he
So
was
it
just
was
gone.
like,
He said he
so
was
one,
in
I don't even
Atlanta.
think it was that. I think he didn't want to be in the home with those kids. I really honestly believe that because he reminds me of the person they're going to bring here in a few episodes.
Marcel.
Yes, because
Yeah,
that's
I
exactly how
saw
Marcel was.
when he said man's movement, and then he showed Marcel, and there was someone else I saw who's known to be like a shitty man. Um,
I didn't see that person. I saw Marcel on the
there's
screen.
somebody else, I can't remember their name. I'll catch it for your next live. But when I saw that, I was like, oh, he with his dingbat wife who he don't want to work. I just,
Yeah, that's the perfect example to bring for male chauvinists.
yeah.
So I can't wait for that episode because I'm reading the fuck down. So let's go to the last scene of this, which was um, Brandon and Christina's 11th year anniversary, I believe it was. Yeah, 11-year anniversary. So they go to a lavender farm. which honestly, that looks cool. I actually wanted to see that in person. I've never seen
I want to
lavender
smell
like
it.
that. Yes, I'm sure it might mess my allergies up, but I'm sure it is beautiful. When they get there, the other couples were there, and immediately I was like, "This is supposed to be my anniversary, and I got to share this evening with our friends. We couldn't just have a moment alone."
Bloop.
I was like, for real, Brandon."
Oh.
So that was strike number one for me for him right there because it was like, okay, now you just playing with people. So they get down there, they are having dinner. Here come Anthony with these antics again, talking about, why you don't want, because I guess something had got mentioned about him going to the club with them or something like that. I don't remember how that conversation started, but it was very much like, oh, you don't want him to go to, oh, I know how it started. She asked him about the whole man's bonding, whatever the fuck you want to call this bullshit. And he was explaining it again, and she was processed. She's like, Christina's a lot like me. I process shit like that too. I get to move in my body, my face does a lot because I honestly I need to process that because it sounds ridiculous when you hear it come out of his mouth.
Listen, listen. I know it's TV and it may not all be fake. I get that. But I just like to anybody out there dating or with someone who's an artist developer, management, you do not need to find your artist in the club. That's weird. Like, usually the artists that are in the club are performing there. And those are the ones you would want your spouse who's on this level to find, right? So there's no reason that I need to go to City Nights or Lucky 13, Complex. These are the clubs here in the Bay Area. There's no reason that I need to go there in order to develop artists. If anything, he should be meeting with club promoters, because if you're in artist development, then the club promoter or management, that's who you talk to in an attempt to get an artist there. You don't just go there. What is he doing? Looking at the people dancing in the crowd, dancing in the club, breaking it down. And it's like, hey, you look like you might sing or rap. I develop artists. Let me get 10%. Like, nobody's having that discussion in real life in the club while people are like under the influence and stuff. Like, even if he was to sign a contract in the club, like, it could be contested because if a person's signing and they're not in the right state, then it voids it. So there's so much wrong with him saying that, and then wanting to talk to Christina in private, pull her aside after she flips out. I'm just looking at this guy like,
Mm-hmm.
I know your type. You're just a 40-year-old fuckboy.
Pretty much.
That's
And
it.
so, and let's bring that up because it was funny you brought that up because her reaction to me, you could tell she did not know about this. So Kobe takes it upon herself to share pillow talk conversation,
Messy boots.
and I live for it because I needed
You know what she
somebody to
was
do it.
doing, and she was right to do it.
Yeah, absolutely, because this is my friend at the end of the day.
You're right.
So yeah, I'm going to question you. So you're developing a new artist, and he was so dumbfounded. He was like, "Huh?" And Christina's reaction was like, "Wait, what?" She go, "Yeah, well, Russell told me that you have a new artist." And he looking at Russell. I said, "No, no, 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 no. Don't look at Russell. Because why would you tell Russell before you told the woman you married to?" All it had to be was a simple conversation. "Hey, I found this new artist. I would like to bring her over for dinner before we sign the contracts. Would that be okay with you?" The fact that you said you needed to find a right time and place leads me to believe that it wasn't just one girl. I think that's the one girl she knew about. I think there was more. Allegedly. I don't know this man's
You
past.
use the word history.
Yes.
So to have a history of something means that there is a timeline of events, multiple, not singular, multiple, that have occurred. She kept using that word history in a tone that was like, well, they know there's a problem with this, but they don't know about this, that, and this. So
So
I'm
you didn't think
telling
Brain, you
you.
didn't think Anthony over there that single-handedly, messily brought this up in the first place. You don't think he knew about this?
And then he made a comment that was weird. Let me look at my notes. Cause what's his face? He made some of the weirdest comment. He said he did not think that his marriage would last more than 5 years.
Oh, when they pulled up to the thing.
Yeah. And I know that was in a whole different scene, but I think that his actions show that he doesn't expect his marriage to last. Um, if you say stuff like that, I'm like into that. Like if you say it, you're speaking it into existence. So
Right.
like, you know, you don't think your marriage is going to last more than 5 years, but here you are, the person in the marriage doing things that could potentially break it.
So it leads me to say, Christina, what healing have y'all really have done?
Whenever couples say they've done healing, that means that they're in the process of trying to. It hasn't
Find
been
something,
yet.
yeah. Because to me, it just seems like she really wasn't over that first situation, and this triggered this to seem like it's the same situation, which rightfully so, because once again, he kept this from her. She had to find out through her homegirl from Pill Talk with her husband.
I cannot stand that men do that. Like when y'all keep stuff from us,
it makes you more guilty.
It makes you look guilty.
Yeah, it makes you more guilty than what it actually could have been. Instead of you just having a conversation wholeheartedly and saying, hey, and it could be something as small as I just bought a new watch.
Right.
Like it could be something as small as that. So like, you know, I don't understand why men do that either, unless you're guilty. Like to me, allegedly, I feel like he has fucked this girl already. And that's why he hasn't said anything. And now this is allegedly. I'm not saying he did or not. I don't know. I don't know that girl. I don't.
Or he plans to.
Or he plans to.
Because the artist,
I just find it hard for him. If you have a history, like I'm saying, like, and I said allegedly, I am saying if you have a history of already stepping out on your marriage before, you didn't think it was in your best interest to at least have a conversation about, hey, I'm having the idea of managing this new artist that I found. How do you feel about that before you even had to go into detail? Like at least explain the idea, because a lot of times that shit don't work out. She could do one song and be gone. Like it just, you know, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. But what I'm saying is, I find it hard to believe that you would not have this conversation at least once if there was no ill intent involved.
I think we agree there. Because to me, it looked like I said, she says they're on a path of healing. He don't really say that. Him and his ponytail just standing straight up in the studio. And I feel like the artist, she seemed like just happy to be on TV and there. Honestly, she didn't give the vibes of, oh, we sleeping together. But I think that he intends and wants to. And that's why he was so aggravated with his wife calling him. I feel like dude is going to do what he can and get away with what he can for a lot longer, because we also have to remember the dynamic of their relationship. They've only got married after being together for 6 months. And then after that, a lot of stuff happened. When you are with someone for however amount of time you're with someone, like prior to just getting married, more than 6 months, right? You feel like you know your spouse, but you're always learning a lot of important things. Plus, in the first year of a relationship, usually, unless it's just toxic, you're in a honeymoon stage. So they're probably just now finding out each other's triggers, tempers, and all of that. But I get the feeling that they're figuring it out through the history that she spoke about. And it seems like when men get mad at the fact that they have to check in with their wives after they break their trust, women too, when people get mad after they cheat on their spouse, if you fix yourself to get mad at your spouse for wanting you to check in, which you agree to, wanting you to not be in places where there's temptation, wanting you or not being cool with you going to the club, like you agree to these terms, you broke their trust, then you act like you get mad at it. You cannot do that. You just can't. But at the same time, she's got to choose to either forgive you and move on or not. But she can't move on if you're acting weird in studios and shit. Their marriage is a mess. And I was surprised that they even celebrated it after that scene with him in the studio. Because Why? What for?
And that's a good point because, and that's why I said that's why I don't like Christina because I feel like Christina, I think she's embarrassed if it doesn't work out. I think she
Mhm.
would be embarrassed.
Mhm.
And ladies, y'all have to work past that shame because a lot of y'all stay in relationships for years when the shit should have been over a long time ago. Y'all stay in relationships way longer than it needs to be. And I feel like she's one of those people that's a testament to that because there's no way if he has a history and he's still doing the same shit that y'all just gonna continue to be married. That there's no way that could happen.
Yeah, I think if a man wants to be faithful or if a woman wants to be faithful, then they will be
They will
faithful.
be faithful. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it's, I think it was actually somebody told me that years ago. One of my husband's friends told me that oddly. 'Cause he
Yeah, I
texted
think
me.
everybody has the tendency to
Yeah,
do it. I just feel like you just make the choice not to.
yeah. So
And yeah.
that's on them, but they definitely also gave me, especially with how this little anniversary party went or whatever
Mhm.
the fudge it was. See, you said strike one for you was the friends being there. You know what strike two for me was? Him having his artist perform. I was like, you better not have your artist anywhere near this woman. If you keep one away, you better keep all of them hidden. And then to have those there, I was like, you know what? Now I just don't.
No. Strike two for me at the table was him not saying anything, but go ahead and tell Big Head over here, Russell, about the whole thing. And it's like, so you felt
There's just so
comfortable.
many strikes.
Yeah. The strike and then strike three was him walking away. I'm like, what you walking away for? You the one did it. Like,
Well,
I'm trying to figure out what
guilty
you walk.
people always need to walk away, and then they blame it on,
No,
that's just what I do.
no,
I need my
stand.
space. I need that. No, guilty people do that. People who
No,
know they ain't done shit go sit in
yeah.
that shit. But when you're
Mm-hmm.
guilty, it's funny because he couldn't stand the heat. He attempted to leave the kitchen, but he forgot that he started the fire. He just fucked up the whole little analogy there.
And
So,
then he tried to blame Kobe on the slide, saying you all in my marriage, and it
and
was
I was
all
mad
like,
that her husband didn't defend her
I
publicly.
was too because I was sitting there. That's why I said his old big head ass. I was all like, I know you better say, hey, look, you shouldn't have told me. This
Girl
my
code is
wife.
girl code, especially if
Yeah,
you're
she
the type of
and he had
couples.
to have known that shit was gonna come up at some point. If you told one person, you knew this is a show, y'all playing telephone, you knew that shit was gonna get around to the others. Like I don't understand
Yeah.
why. I don't understand. Yeah,
But they want to blame Kobe for being messy. But Mr. Manpowers, look, he
he the
was
one
the
that
one
started
who
it. Yeah,
started the
yeah, he the
entire
one that started that
conversation.
shit in the first place.
But look
I'm
at
not,
his situation with his wife. So of course
and
we
she just sitting there looking like a little mouse, just sitting there, just
eating cheese.
eating cheese and shit, and drinking that wine. I'm like, see, this is the problem. You don't open your mouth until the shit hits the fan when you need to be opening up before the motherfucking make it there. See, that's the problem. Oh Lord, Carlos, you got gold, baby, with this one because these couples are aggravating as hell. All three of them are aggravating.
They were much more, I think it's good love and marriage instead of trying to show what they're doing for the community. He seemed to realize people just want reality TV and has given us that. Because I
I feel
mean,
like they're still trying to do something with the community, but I'm gonna give you this: it is much better than Love and Marriage DC. It was
I only
much
got through
better.
half of an episode of it and turned it off. I don't know if Monique ruined it for me. I don't know what it was, but
She didn't ruin it for me. It was the one that's married to DJ Quicksilver. His wife ruined it for me. I honestly didn't like any of them. I honestly did
I
not
didn't
like.
like the
I didn't
DC
like because I
couples.
don't like Monique. So I mean, I like Monique, but I like her outside of reality TV. If
I
that makes
don't
sense.
like any of the love and marriage couples, honestly, on any of them. But
No, I don't either.
they're entertaining. I would watch Huntsville if Melody would just lower your voice, talk a little quieter. That's it.
See, I would recap. And see, and the thing is, I would recap Love and Marriage Huntsville, but y'all Love and Marriage Huntsville fans are out of fucking control when it comes to Martell.
I take
And
it too seriously.
yeah, I can't do that. I'm sorry, I cannot take that. That is
That's how
way
love
too
and
much.
hip hop is, but it's been pretty good given the disclaimers. People have kind of like left it alone. I haven't dealt with much, but yeah, certain shows the fan base takes it like to heart, and I'm like,
Yeah, so I'm gonna look
you
and see
don't
what
know
this
these
one does because yeah. But that's pretty much it, y'all. It was a good show. Carlos, you did a good job casting. I wish you would have got one more couple. I needed one more
He
couple.
needed 4 because 3 couples for hour episodes. And I noticed that Carlos struggles with this on all of his shows.
Well,
I
that's
think
how he started all the Love and Marriage Huntsvilles. They all start out with 3 couples, and
he
then he
has
adds
these
little
the
friends
way
of the
he
shows later.
casts, there's too many like boring moments. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm just
Like,
but
I'm interested to see how the friends of come because I just know I don't know. I didn't see very many from the preview, so I don't know if we'll get any. But the friends of like Winter Williams from Love and Marriage DC saved that for him because she was the one who did like that was who I was waiting for. She turned that shit out. So Winter Williams and I feel like in Love and Marriage Huntsville, I feel like no, because Tiffany carrying that shit. I'm sorry, Tiffany is carrying that show. So yeah, but this Love Marriage Detroit, y'all. That was it. We're gonna go ahead and go over to Bell Collective and start on that. So if you are in this, or if you're just watching a playback, make sure you watch all of us. Make sure you subscribe to both of us. I am James from Watch My Reviews. This is my girl, Mrs. Best, aka Amina. Her information is in my description box. Don't be selfish, y'all. Subscribe to both of us. But yes, catch us on my channel for the next live, Bell Collective. I'll see you in the next review. Bye.
yes.